Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today in this video we're going to be talking about how I'm making a billion ISK a day. So this is going to be the brief version. There will be a more fleshed out version, and the reason for that is I'm currently on holiday and don't have a huge amount of time. So when my holiday is finished I'll go back to doing a more in-depth version that will list basically how much I'm making, how much I've got invested in each area that I'm making, how much time it takes me to be able to make them kind of returns on the items, how I find them, etc. But this is just going to be, so say, more of a brief overview for the time being. So a billion ISK a day is pretty much the marker I set for myself when trying to make ISK in the game. If I'm reaching a billion ISK, I'm generally quite happy. Now, I don't always earn a billion ISK every single day, and that's generally because I can't be bothered every day to put the effort in, and that again I don't really need a billion ISK a day, and therefore, so say, I don't always have the drive in order to be able to push to do it. But the point is that again, if I wanted to, I can comfortably make a billion ISK a day. And so the first one that I generally do is the research on BPOs. So I buy BPOs, I ferry them somewhere, I then research them for ME and PE to their maximum, and then I take them back to jitter and I sell them. Now again, this is a relatively consistent earner, but again, profits do jump up and down depending on the market at the time. And so from BPC research I make roughly 70 million ISK a day. So risk wise it can be quite high because obviously you are ferrying around high value items, but time invested wise is very low for this, so it doesn't take a great deal of time. So item number 2 is BPO copying. So from the blueprints that I have, I make copies and then I either sell the copies or I use the copies in the manufacturing or the invention process. However, just because I've obviously copied them, I don't consider it free, and I still class it as if I have bought it off the market. So I do a whole host of items, from items, ships to capital BPOs, etc. And so say this again is relatively consistent. It is relatively easy. It doesn't take a lot of actual input or any real kind of market research. So this activity is obviously a lot less risky than moving blueprints around. Yes, you may get ganked and you may lose your copies, which isn't great, but again, you still have the originals and can produce more copies. You just lose that batch of copies. So again, a lot lower risk than the BPO moving around, but again, not without its risk. So from the blueprint copying, I make on average 77 million ISK per day. Again, some of it goes into selling directly on the market, and some of it will go into the manufacturing or the invention that I do. But again, consistently, it's in the region of 77 million ISK per day. So on to the next item, item 3, which is invention. Now, I do quite a lot of invention. It's relatively straightforward. You know the odds of the statistics of getting your BPOs, BPCs even, so it's quite easy to estimate the prices, etc. Prices do vary, but not a huge amount. And again, I don't generally sell the Tech 2 BPCs because there isn't a huge market for selling the Tech 2 BPCs, and you're best off just producing the item itself and then selling it the end product. But as with everything, again, the price of this should be factored into the manufacturing cost of the end item, and that's exactly what I do. So again, relatively, I'd say medium risk for this, due to the fact that depending where you're doing it, you're having to ferry around data cores, etc. If you're doing it in mass or in bulk, obviously data cores can be quite expensive if you are moving enough of them, and are relatively small, so you can use a deep space transport, etc. with cloak, so it's not massively risky, but again, there is always a chance that you could get sloppy or unlucky and lose the ship with the data cores. Now obviously, moving the BPCs, once they've been created, the BPCs themselves are relatively small. As you can see, I've got 368 here, which takes up 3.7 M3's worth of space, so I could comfortably fit them and triple the amount in a shuttle. And so again, depending on prices, etc., I average 166 million ISK a day from invention. And again, that is from a whole host of items and different style types of items, etc. But again, it's consistent, it's relatively easy. A little bit of research is required for this, so it does take a little bit more research than the BPC copying and the BPO researching for the MEPE. And obviously this one does take quite a lot of skills if you are planning on doing a wide range of items, so again it's a little bit more skill intensive, but all in all relatively straightforward. So I say that's 166 million ISK per day. So point number 4, manufacturing. Again, I haven't been doing manufacturing in a great deal of capacity of late due to the swings in the markets, etc. So I have been waiting for it to die down, and although I have got a little bit more back into manufacturing, the level of scope there to increase what I'm doing is generally quite large at the moment. I'm only concentrating on a very specific area and could roll that out 5 or 6 times the amount that I'm currently doing. So manufacturing can be a strange one. It can be really quick and easy, or it can be quite a time sink depending if you're having to move items, etc., or the minerals around in order to be able to get decent installation costs, or the best station, or the quickest time, etc. So that can be quite a pain depending on what you're building, because obviously minerals are quite sizable, so it's something you'll need a freighter for, and obviously you don't want to be carrying too much in a freighter because you don't want to be ganked, etc. Also, time-wise, into looking into products to produce this one is a little bit more time-intensive than the others that we have mentioned so far, due to the fact that you can't just build stuff on a whim and expect it to sell, etc. And potentially, obviously, you will then have to do the babysitting of sell orders if you want it to sell relatively quickly. So the manufacturing side can have a lot of pitfalls to it, and again it can be quite time intensive, but at the moment, so say on this one area alone, or specifically that I'm concentrating on, I'm making 80 million ISK per day. Now I reckon I could times that by at least 5 if I really wanted to, but as we've just outlined, it's not really worth the time, etc., or I can't be bothered to put in the amount of time required in order to be able to expand what I'm doing at the moment. So as it is, I'm only dealing or manufacturing with 1 or 2 alts, and again I'm only concentrating on one specific area, but 80 million ISK per day consistently. So item number 5 is trading. Now trading is something I've not really done since the change in margin skills, and even prior to that I haven't really heavily participated in trading at all. I've been dealing more again with manufacturing and research, etc. But semi-recently I've got back into trading, and I've been very happy with the results that we've been getting from this so far. And so trading is relatively low risk, but you do need quite a decent amount of capital in order to be able to buy, hold, sell, etc. In regards to research, it doesn't take a huge amount of research. You just go through the market, find what's selling low, buy it, and then sell it higher. But in regards to returns, the returns are obviously can be quite good depending on the items that you are choosing and the amount that you are moving. So today's giveaway is going to be a simple one. Type in the comments something, etc. with your character name, so that if you are to win, I can obviously contract it to you directly. The draw will be 24 hours from the time the video is posted, and I will pin it in the comments section for who is the winner. And it doesn't require a great deal of hauling or any hauling at all, other than potentially moving a few items around the jitter area, because obviously some people do sell you the item in perimeter, because we've got the range, as you can see here, at 1 jump. So sometimes you do have to go around and pick up some of the items, but all in all the vast majority is given to you in jitter. So there's no moving, there's no transporting. It basically is, as soon as it comes in, relist it at a higher price and sell. So the actual barrier to entry in regards to time is relatively low, but you do need very good standings to get the best amount of tax. So if you are seriously thinking about trading, then you do want pretty much 7.5 standings to whatever state that you are trading in. But so for jitter, it's the Caldari state that we need the standings to, and obviously that can take one heck of a grind to get your standings up, which isn't a great deal of fun. So although the barrier or entry to trade is relatively low, you just need the skills, broker skills, etc. the stand-ins can obviously hurt, and again, it does take your broker fees down by up to 3%, and obviously depending on what kind of amount of ISK that you're dealing with, that can be huge. So I put in a minimum amount of effort. I do up or amend my buy orders and sell orders every several hours. Again, I don't do it particularly consistently, etc. It's just whenever I think about it, when I get up, when I go to bed, sometime in the afternoon, sometime in the morning, etc. So again, it is highly proportional to the amount of time that you put in. You'll get higher returns, but as it currently stands, on average, I'm making 250 million ISK per day from the trading. So item number 6 is reactions. I haven't really done a great deal with reactions in the past, so I'm just really getting into this at the moment, but it seems to be doing quite well. It's quite high risk due to the fact that you are moving around very expensive components, etc., in order to be able to do the reactions, and these reactions can only be done in nullsec or lowsec or in wormholes. So again, it is a lot, or can be quite risky depending on your skill level and your risk for tolerance. When you're moving around 2-3 billion ISK in a hauler, it can be quite interesting, to say the least. Time wise, again, other than moving the items to said area and then installing, it does it all itself from that point. So the amount of actual time spent in this is relatively minimal. A little bit of research potentially to choose a decent one at the time, or to choose one that is selling well and isn't on a downward trajectory. But other than that, it's relatively straightforward. So at the moment, I'm making in the region of 50 to 75 million ISK per day doing reactions. So again, I haven't really gotten into this properly, so there is huge room to grow this area for my income specifically, and with it being relatively low time consuming, it's obviously quite appealing in regards to what I do. And then we have the Abyssal sites. Now, I quite like to do this as it's completely different to what I generally do in regards to the industry side, and again, I find this quite relaxing, so I do this in what I would consider my spare time when I'm not grinding out ISK in other industrial ways, etc. But this is quite a decent ISK earner. Again, as I said, I do this with 3 characters on the frigate side, so there are 3 frigates, both of them in here are mine, and again, I usually do this for 1 or 2 hours a day, and this nets me anywhere between 200 million and 400 million depending on the amount of time that I'm willing to put in. Obviously that does sometimes go up, and if I can't be bothered on the day, then obviously I don't make anything from this. But again, when I am willing to put in the time, it's, so say, 200 to 400 million ISK depending. And so to recap on that, for BPO research, we've got 70 million ISK per day. BPO copying comes out at roughly 77 million ISK per day. Invention is 166 million ISK per day. Manufacturing is 80 million ISK per day. Trading comes in at 250 million ISK per day. And reactions is 50 million ISK per day. And finally, from the Abyssal sites, I'm making roughly 300 million ISK per day. And that equates to 993 million ISK per day, or we'll round it up to the billion ISK per day mark. So I hope that's been interesting. I hope that's given you a bit of a glimpse into what it is that I'm up to, how much I'm making, etc. at the moment. And again, I don't do this every single day, but again, it is relatively sustainable for long periods if I choose to do so. So this isn't just a I got lucky, something dropped in X, Y or Z, or something sold for an absurd amount of ISK for one reason or another. This is consistent ISK that I can do pretty much consistently day in and day out, and that is without crashing the market as well. None of this is basically oversaturating the market for the areas that I'm currently dabbling in. So as I said, 100% sustainable long term. It's whether I'm willing to put the effort in, which is generally the deciding factor on how much ISK I make per day. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was interesting. If you made it this far, then please do think about subscribing, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks for your time.